Bill Cosby's reign as America's dad famously came crumbling down amidst allegations of sexual misconduct spanning decades.
Comedian Bill Cosby is out on bail today, and for the first time, he's now charged with sex crimes stemming from a 2004 case.
Y'all, imagine building one of the most iconic, groundbreaking shows in television history, only for it to be completely erased. Not because of ratings, not because of creative failure, but because the man behind it all became a walking scandal. From praised father figure to convicted predator, how did America's favorite dad turn into one of the most controversial figures in pop culture history? Baby, grab your tea because the truth behind The Cosby Show's downfall is messier than you ever thought. And it all started with a picture-perfect lie. When The Cosby Show first aired on September 20th, 1984, it was like a cultural reset. At a time when Black families were constantly misrepresented in the media, this show stepped in with the Huxtables, an upper-middle-class African-American family living in Brooklyn, New York. Cliff Huxtable was a respected doctor, Claire was a fierce lawyer, and together they raised 5 kids in a home filled with love, education, and relatable chaos. Bill Cosby created the show based on his own life and comedy. He wanted to give Black families something to see themselves in, minus the struggle and the stereotypes. For once, America was watching a Black family thrive, joke, cry, and teach values, and they couldn't get enough. The show dominated ratings for 5 years straight, tied only with All in the Family for that achievement. It didn't just entertain, it educated, inspired, and literally shifted how people viewed race and class in America. It was the blueprint for wholesome sitcoms with meaning. And at the center of it all, Bill Cosby, the man, the myth, the legend, or so we thought. But let's be real, nothing that calculated ever happens without a plan. Cosby didn't just want a hit show, he wanted control. From the casting to the set design, everything had to reflect his vision. He made the family wealthier than originally planned, swapping out a working-class background for a doctor-lawyer duo, which wasn't typical on TV, especially for a Black family. But Cosby wanted to change minds and reshape narratives. And it worked at first, but behind the scenes, the control got intense. Cosby allegedly micromanaged scripts, performances, and even off-screen behavior. It was his empire, and no one, not even the cast, could shake that. Let's not forget, the cast was fire. Phylicia Rashad as Claire was elegance and power personified. Lisa Bonet brought cool girl energy as Denise. Theo, Vanessa, Rudy. Each kid brought something unique, but the warmth we saw on camera didn't always translate off-screen. Rumors of tension started early, especially between Cosby and Lisa Bonet. When she stepped outside the show's clean image and took on a more provocative role in Angel Heart, Cosby wasn't having it. She was temporarily cut and later pushed out for good. And that's when fans started noticing maybe the show wasn't as squeaky clean as it looked. But this was just the surface. What came next would flip everything upside down, not just for the cast, but for Cosby's entire legacy. As the seasons rolled on, The Cosby Show became more than just a sitcom. It became a brand. It launched spin-offs, dominated award shows, and made Bill Cosby one of the most trusted figures in America. But behind that cardigan and those corny dad jokes was a man with secrets. And honey, those secrets were about to burst out. It all started with a joke. One joke that destroyed everything. In 2014, comedian Hannibal Buress got on stage in Philadelphia and said it plain. Yeah, but you raped women, Bill Cosby. So, turn the crazy down a couple notches. He called Cosby a hypocrite, mocking how he lectured Black youth about morality while having dozens of skeletons in his closet. The audience was stunned, but when the clip hit the internet, it blew all the way up. People who had heard whispers before were now paying attention, and almost immediately,
this was not the man that I knew. This is not the man that I worked with. He may have had other faults, but he certainly was not drugging people and
it began. Women came forward, first a few, then dozens. Their stories weren't vague. They were detailed, disturbing, and eerily semi-R. Cosby allegedly drugged them, assaulted them, then made sure they stayed quiet. It didn't matter how beloved he once was. The second these allegations went mainstream, the industry slammed the door shut. Networks like TV Land, Bounce TV, and BET pulled The Cosby Show off the air. Syndication deals were canceled, streaming platforms started distancing themselves. And it wasn't just TV. Institutions stripped Cosby of honorary degrees. Awards he once proudly displayed were revoked. Brands that once praised him wanted nothing to do with his name. Just like that, the legacy he spent decades building began crumbling in real time. Then came the legal firestorm. In 2015, Cosby was charged with aggravated indecent assault based on allegations from Andrea Constand, a former Temple University employee. His first trial in 2017, hung jury, but the retrial in 2018, guilty. Cosby was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in a Pennsylvania state prison, and the image of America's favorite TV dad, in handcuffs, in a jumpsuit, was burned into the world's memory. But the craziest part? Even that wasn't the end. Just when the world thought the Cosby chapter was closed forever, boom.
Cosby was released from prison just within the last few hours. His legal team addressed reporters, but he himself did not speak.
In 2021, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned Bill Cosby's conviction. Like what? After barely serving 3 years, the man once labeled a predator was released on a legal technicality. It wasn't that he was declared innocent, it was that a past deal with a prosecutor meant he never should have been charged in the first place. Cue the chaos. The public was stunned. Protesters flooded the streets. Survivors were devastated. Celebrities spoke out. It felt like a slap in the face to everyone who had come forward, shared their trauma, and watched justice finally being served, only to see it snatched away. It wasn't just about Cosby walking free. It was about what that freedom represented. The moment news broke, Twitter was in flames. Hashtags exploded. News anchors scrambled. Everyone had something to say, and everyone had questions. Would he go back to performing? Would networks welcome him back? Would The Cosby Show be revived? But the bigger question, was America really ready to forgive Bill Cosby? Cosby himself didn't stay quiet for long. He posted a photo on social media, flashing that same smug smile he wore during his trial. In interviews, he maintained his innocence, claiming he'd been railroaded by the justice system. But let's be real, the court of public opinion wasn't buying it. Then came the most uncomfortable part, the cast. The people who played his fictional family for nearly a decade suddenly had to face the real-life monster behind the scenes. Phylicia Rashad, the beloved Claire Huxtable, shocked fans when she tweeted her support for Cosby's release, calling it a correction of a miscarriage of justice. Chile, the backlash was instant. Fans called her out for defending a man accused by over 60 women. Rashad later walked it back, releasing a statement expressing support for survivors. But the damage was done. Her once wholesome image took a hit. Malcolm Jamal Warner, who played Theo, was more measured. He acknowledged Cosby's impact on his life and career, but made it clear the allegations had permanently tainted the show's legacy. It's complicated, he said in an interview, and honestly, that's the only way to describe it. Kesha Knight Pulliam, who played Rudy, also found herself in a difficult spot. She'd often spoken about Cosby as a mentor and father figure, but after the accusations, her tone shifted. While she never fully condemned him, she expressed heartbreak over the situation and emphasized her support for survivors. For someone who grew up under his wing, the betrayal hit differently. Lisa Bonet? Baby, she had long since distanced herself from Cosby and the show. Even before the allegations, their relationship was rocky. And when the scandal broke, she stayed silent, which spoke volumes. But years later, sources say she privately expressed feeling vindicated, as if the truth she sensed all along had finally been exposed. At this point, there was no going back. The Cosby Show may still be available on a few niche streaming platforms, but its days as a beloved classic were officially over. What was once hailed as a symbol of Black excellence was now tangled in a web of deceit, pain, and irreversible damage. And yet, some people still defended him. Some fans still clung to the nostalgia. And Cosby? He started hinting at a comeback. Yes, seriously. But before we talk about that, let's get into what happened to the cast after the show ended, because their journeys post-Cosby are a roller coaster of success, setbacks, and serious tea. Let's start with Phylicia Rashad. After years of being the poised, iconic Claire Huxtable, Phylicia tried to keep that same energy in her real life. Grace, dignity, class. But that grace got tested fast after she tweeted her support for Cosby's release. She later apologized, but her words left a lasting mark. Even so, her career didn't fall apart. In fact, she kept shining in Hollywood and academia. She played strong maternal roles in Creed, This Is Us, and more. And guess what? She even became Dean of the College of Fine Arts at Howard University. But in May 2024, her contract wasn't renewed. And let's just say the Cosby connection probably didn't help. She's still respected. She's still talented. But that ride or die loyalty to Cosby, it definitely complicated her legacy. Lisa Bonet, aka Denise Huxtable, was always the rebel. And maybe that's why her relationship with Cosby never felt right. Even back in the day, he wasn't vibing with her free-spirited nature or her bold choices. When she filmed Angel Heart, he basically kicked her off the show and handed her a spin-off just to get her out of sight. After The Cosby Show, Lisa carved her own path. She took on indie films, stayed low-key, and built a life that had nothing to do with Cosby's empire. Her marriage to Jason Momoa turned her into Hollywood royalty until it ended in 2024. But let's be honest, she never needed that man to shine. When the Cosby scandal hit, Lisa didn't speak. No Instagram posts, no interviews, just silence. And that silence, louder than words. She'd left the empire long before it crumbled, and watching it all burn probably didn't surprise her one bit. Malcolm Jamal Warner, who played Theo, handled the chaos like a pro. He didn't pick sides, he didn't go on a rant, he just kept it real. He's been clear that Cosby gave him a life-changing opportunity, but he also acknowledged how painful the allegations were. Since The Cosby Show, Malcolm's kept his career strong and steady. From Suits to American Crime Story, he's done it all. And he's not just an actor, he's a spoken word artist and a jazz musician with several albums under his belt. Basically, he stayed booked, blessed, and unbothered. He talks about The Cosby Show like it's a memory he's proud of, but also one he knows will never be viewed the same. And that awareness, that's what makes him one of the few cast members who managed to walk that tightrope with grace. Tempest Bledsoe, aka Vanessa, kept things way more low-key. After the show, she dabbled in hosting, remember Clean House? And acted in a few sitcoms like Guys with Kids. She never tried to chase A-list fame, but she never completely disappeared either. She's been in a long-term relationship with actor Daryl M. Bell, and they've kept their private life very private. She never commented much on the Cosby scandal, but insiders say she was devastated, not just by the allegations, but by how they tainted something she'd once been proud of. She may not be in the spotlight, but Tempest quietly built a life and career that had nothing to do with Cosby. And sometimes, silence is power. And then there's little Rudy, Kesha Knight Pulliam. She grew up in front of America's eyes, and somehow she stayed grounded. Post-Cosby Show, she had a solid career. Tyler Perry scooped her up for House of Pain, she made reality TV appearances, and she even went back to school. She's now married to actor Brad James, and they welcomed their second child in 2023. Kesha kept her Cosby commentary minimal, just enough to express heartbreak, but never full condemnation. She stayed loyal to the version of him she thought she knew, the one who mentored her, not the one in the courtroom. But no matter what, she kept her image clean, her moves strategic, and her head held high. Even now, every time one of these actors books a role or does an interview, Cosby's name floats right back into the room. It's the shadow that won't leave, the legacy they can't escape. Some have embraced the past, others have buried it, but no one walked away untouched. So here's the plot twist that literally no one asked for. Bill Cosby wants a comeback. Yeah, you heard that right. Despite the legal chaos, the media blackout, and the fact that half of Hollywood wouldn't touch his name with a 10-foot pole, Cosby has been quietly plotting a return to the spotlight. He's been working on a memoir. There's talk of a documentary, one where he gets to tell his side of the story. And if that wasn't wild enough, he's even teased the idea of getting back on stage. Yes, at 87 years old, Cosby allegedly wants to do stand-up comedy again. Like Sir, read the room. But here's the thing, there is still a crowd out there clapping for him. A small but loud fan base, mostly older folks, still sees him as America's dad and believes the accusations were all a setup. It's a shocking reminder that no matter how much evidence piles up, some people will always defend the myth they fell in love with. The industry, though, done. There's no reboot, no talk shows, no appearances. His name has been wiped from honorary lists, halls of fame, and rerun schedules. Hollywood has moved on, and in a post-Me Too world, Cosby is seen as the cautionary tale, not the comeback kid. He may try to claw his way back, but the red carpet won't be rolled out. Too many burned bridges, too many voices that can't be silenced anymore. And then there's The Cosby Show, a show that once changed television forever. It broke barriers, it brought Black excellence into millions of living rooms. It raised a generation on life lessons, laughter, and love. But now, it sits in streaming purgatory, banned from syndication, and treated like a relic with a dark curse. Critics and scholars still acknowledge its cultural impact. They have to. It shaped TV history, but it's impossible to talk about the brilliance of the Huxtables without the shadow of what Cosby did behind the scenes. The show didn't fail, the man behind it did. As for the cast, they're still navigating the mess. Some want distance, some still defend him, and some just want to be able to tell their stories without his name being the headline. But whether they like it or not, their legacies are tied to his. And healing, that's still in progress. Because when someone as powerful as Cosby falls, the damage ripples out, hitting not just the victims, but everyone who once believed in the illusion. The Cosby saga is more than just a scandal. It's a story about power, trust, and how easily we mistake image for truth. For years, Cosby built a character that was everything America wanted to see. Smart, funny, fatherly, safe. And maybe that's why it took so long for people to see who he really was. Because when someone makes you feel good, it's hard to believe they could be doing something so bad. But truth doesn't care about image. And this truth, it's ugly, uncomfortable, and necessary. So yeah, The Cosby Show was iconic. It was important, but it's also a painful reminder that sometimes the biggest smiles hide the darkest secrets. And if this whole messy story taught us anything, it's this. Never confuse the role with the real person. Because behind the world's favorite dad was a man whose real-life choices destroyed everything. Who? That's the tea, y'all.